Welcome everyone. I'm going to present today in a few slides what I believe should be the way forward for customer experience management. In particular, I emphasize that customer experience management needs to be called Customer Centric Transformation, or CCT. Why? Because that gets to the heart, the intent of what customer experience management should truly be about. Now, to execute this, I'm going to talk about the power of 5 that we need as customer experience managers to have the right understanding, use the right measurements with the right governance and compliance that results in the right actions with the right results. I'm going to go through each of the frameworks and approaches to deliver on that, what I call, again, customer-centric transformation. Let's go through right understanding. What is customer experience management? Well, it's really simple. It's focus on the customer, what they think, feel, and do. It's no more complicated than that. But within that, there's a lot of complexity. And context is king, because sometimes it's about ease, sometimes it's about delight, sometimes it's about the experience economy, and sometimes it's about loss aversion. We need to understand and get close to that context to understand and better deliver customer experiences. What's the best way to do this? I would say use the Cynefin framework. This comes from Dave Snowden and Cognitive Edge. And in brief, this tells us what we need to do with the experiences that we engage with. So, for instance, if in the obvious domain, we sense, categorize, and respond. An example of this is in a surgery where a surgeon would put swabs in and takes swabs out. We might be in the complicated domain. An example here would be 4-drop calls predict churn, all the analytical power we need for root cause analysis of that. A more practical example might be mending a watch or mending a puncture on a bicycle. There is root cause, we can uncover it with good practice and deliver a result. Then there is the complex domain. And this is often missed. The complex domain is really important. In my work, I've established that it's at least about 50% of experiences lie within the complex domain. And here, the rule is probe, sense, respond. For instance, we do an innovation. We don't know what the result is. We can't necessarily predict unless we send it out there and see what happens. A/B testing is an example of that as well. What other examples are there? The sort of environments we're dealing with really are wherever customers are in the loop of decision making, where you can never quite tell what the customer's reaction is going to be, or an employee's reaction, employee culture, or an accident and emergency ward where everything's going on. Critical point here is things are slightly different each time. Therefore, you can't predict accurately from the past. You can only alert yourself, make sense of the present, and see how things emerge. And then there's chaotic. And this is act, sense, respond. It's the area where a sudden event happens and you have no time, a disaster recovery situation or a COVID situation, you just have to engage in novel practice. This is your fundamental framework for going forward as customer experience professionals, because you need to understand where you are and understand what experiences you're dealing with. Frequently, though, companies talk about customer experience as just being complicated, like building a bridge. It's a very top-down view of customer experience. It's not incorrect for about 50% of your experiences. Root cause analytics does work, but it is myopic. It's seeing the world through a drinking straw. It's omitting the criticality of more complex environments where customers and employees are engaged. It should, in essence, customer experience be viewed more as a complex environment, like an ecosystem. And like an ecosystem, as we've seen, things change all the time. We have to be hyper aware of the moment and respond to that moment. It is, in essence, about interactions and the flow of interactions. Another example is boarding an airplane. One day it might be easy. Next week, go on the same flight and somebody puts their baggage in your luggage rack above your seat and an argument ensues. It's these kind of things. People are different each time. It's not possible to perfectly predict from the past to this environment. You have to be alert to the present. But of course, experiences often mix, as I said. Oftentimes they're complicated as well as being complex. Example of this is recruitment. In recruitment, you have job platforms that take the weight of HR and expand the brief to the internet audience to look for job hunters. And that's not a bad thing. But many times, a job hunter would actually not want to engage an agency. They'd want to talk to the company direct. They don't want to put their CV in and then have to redo all the details. And what is delivered to them is often an American platform that asks their American resident wanting to be paid in dollars and if they're a Vietnam veteran. So you can see the problem here. As a job hunter, if you're a job hunter, you want that cultural connection. You want to understand the firm. You don't want to talk to an intermediary. But the firm's view is we can save money, we can scale. It's that dynamic you need to manage. And this applies not just in the employee world or the job hunting world or the recruitment world, whatever. It applies in customer experiences per se. You put a chatbot in and customers have complex issues, they want to talk to somebody. The next one in this Power 5 is right measurements. Use Sensemaker. Traditional measures like NPS are not bad, but they're linear, they're root cause, they're mathematical, they assume customers therefore evaluate all the time. When they don't, they often just describe. They assume a closed system and they work in the complicated domain. Oftentimes, customers are non-linear. They don't evaluate all the time. They talk in stories. The unit of measurement is stories. Things emerge. They use words. It's an open system. It's more complex. But right measurements involves being able to scan your environment to know what you're dealing with. It involves the objectivity of numbers and the persuasiveness of stories. Another quote from Dave Snowden. We need to unpack and uncover possible moments, weak signals in your data, maybe one person saying something that could be amplified as an innovation. As I said, nobody thinks in numbers. They use stories as their unit of measurement to themselves and to others. So use stories as your unit of measurement to understand how customers think and feel. And this way of using stories is currently being used in Boeing and NHS, just as two examples. You can see the type of charts that come out. They are flow diagrams. They say the disposition, what is emerging, the flow of the narrative. Why is that important? Because as you can see from these flow charts, we can absolutely uncover root causes. The bottom right, where there are fewer stories like this, is a mass of stories, of narratives. Each one of those dots represents a story from a customer and an employee. That narrative is fundamental in pulling the average to a worse position. We need fewer stories like that. But we can also see where stories are starting to coalesce around something new, something we should be aware of, something that's called an adjacent possible to our average of where we are, a story quite close to us that may pull us in the top right, in the right direction. We need to be alive to that. They're weak signals of where things are coalescing, where things are emerging, where new events are happening, where we can spot innovations as outliers. Use flow diagrams. They give you the numbers that you need, but also tell you where things are heading for. They are ideal for dealing with complex systems, as well as identifying where there is a root cause and complicated systems as well. Example, Liverpool Museum. This is from Narrate and Tony Quinlan. Here Tony got narratives from students, in this case, walking through the museum, and they picked up on that narrative. An individual, which is a really important story to them, and they identified and they flagged it. They told their story and they quantified it themselves, not an algorithm, not an analyst, themselves, which gives self-quantified narratives that go straight into your dashboard. Really important, that. What they said was, when we were in the insect house, I wanted to use the models. Mr. Smith kept on telling us about them, but didn't let us touch them until the end, and there wasn't any time. He can play with them anytime, and I missed my chance because I knew it's not fair. Why is that important? It's an alert to a situation in a museum, an experience a customer had that was red flagged by the data and could be immediately responded to. And you can see that's not going to happen all the time. It's just a situation we grab hold of before it grows, and we engage our organization to change the stories on the ground. Next one is co-creation. It's a method for governance and compliance. We need to avoid what's happening in the market at the moment, the white blood cell reaction, where customer experience managers come in transversal roles without the right tools and the right budget to do their job, and without the right mindset supporting them. We need, therefore, to be focused. Our role is as supporting customer-centric transformation, much clearer identification of role. And we need to sit within business transformation. That's a natural place for a transversal role. A natural place to use consultative skills inside the firm and to be clear and engage in a social process of co-creation with employees, where a lot of these ideas, as well as customers, will come from, to deliver continuous improvement, total quality management, and also show our value. We are the customer's advocate. We turn insights, voice of the customer, voice of employees, innovation insights into actionability. We are supported by a customer council, a lead group of experts from your industry who you report to show what you have done. We are led by being in the strategy pillar. Top executives support us in our business transformation endeavors. Next in the power of 5 is designing the right actions. What is design about? Well, it's about absolutely using your journey maps as your design tool. Make sure it's not a marketing poster. Building in voice of the customer, so your journey maps become enriched with data. Using those within service design framework to support that service design-led process. As we said, we interfacing design and build, encouraging social change. And finally, in this power of 5, the right results. What do we mean by that? We triage. We make sure that the right user stories are delivered. We make sure we're right up front, ensuring that the right stories are delivered within the lens of customer. We turn customer experience about is we turn journey insights into actions. There's your power of 5. Customer experience management is customer-centric transformation. You use Cynefin for your right understanding, Sensemaker for your right measurements, co-creation for your right governance and compliance within your business transformation team. Use service design and those principles to deliver your right actions that engage employees in the coalfield face as much as your customers, and you triage to deliver the right results. If you'd like more information on this, please feel free to email me. If you want a more comprehensive view of all this, I've got a 50-minute or so presentation on my website, www.allaboutexperience.co.uk, and at my YouTube channel, which is on this slide. Thank you for your time.